So let's go ahead and move on to the weapons tab. And this is going to be pretty similar. Most of this is going to be, similar to the armors, and it's also going to have commonalities in what we've already seen in some of these earlier tabs here. So here we have the general settings section with the name. So this is actually the name of the weapon itself. So you could call this, big sword or whatever. And you can see over here it actually changes the name of it. So this is the name of your individual equipment versus your weapon type name, which we'll cover. That's in this term. No, somewhere down here. One of these system types terms. One of those. I think it's in the types tab actually, where you can change the weapon type names. So if you don't want to call them swords, you want to call them blades or something, you could do that. And you can change it in this weapon type section here. So anyway, but that's where you put the name if you want that, and the icon, just like the other things. Again, with weapons, you're probably going to want at least some kind of description. Like it could just be, really simple, like a basic sword or whatever. It's less important with the weapons, I would say, unless it has some kind of like special ability that you might want the player to know about, or if you get really detailed with your lore and stuff for your game, and like you want to have a history of that weapon or something, you can type that stuff in there. But generally, the names and the stats and things will be more important to the player in the case of weapons and armor and stuff like that than items, where items you really need to know what they do to for them to be of much use to you. So here again, we can change the weapon type of whatever weapon you have here, and these are the default values. You can put none, or you can choose one of the ones you have listed. Dagger, sword, flail, axe, and these are all the defaults, and we can change all those. So if you don't want that many, you can get rid of some later. Maybe your game's not going to have flails or canes or guns or whatever, and you can take all that stuff out. So it's not cluttering up your list here, if that's helpful for you. And we'll see that later. So once you choose what weapon type it is, then effects that have to do with the weapon type, like which classes can equip that weapon type and what actors can equip that weapon type, that sort of thing. If there's any skills that require a weapon type of a specific type to be able to use, this is where you decide that for each individual weapon that you can have your players equip, or your characters equip in your game. So the price in the shop, again, just like with the items, same sort of situation. The animation that it uses when the player uses this weapon to attack. And then down here we have parameter changes. So it says set how much the actor's parameters will increase by equipping this item. So most of the weapons here by default, the axe, the sword, and the cane, they all are they're pretty much identical except for the name and the weapon type and the animation and the icon. This is about the only things that changes between these three. So so all that they do is increase your attack power stat by, in this case, 10 points. So these would be like basic starting weapons, and then as you go through the game, you would want to make stronger swords that increase your attack even more, so the player progresses and they feel more powerful and that sort of thing. So since the attack power affects things like the amount of damage done to opponents, I'll just briefly go over all these little tip boxes here. Defense is the defense power, affects things like the amount of damage taken from opponents. M.attack is magic attack power, affects things like the power of magic the character uses. So in your skills, your magic skills, that it would affect the damage that you can do with those. M.defense is magic defense power. It affects things like the power of magic attacks from opponents. So this is basically your defense against magic attacks versus defense being your defense against physical attacks. So same kind of idea. So if you get hit by spells, if you do have a low magic defense, it'll do a lot more damage than if you had high magic defense, that sort of thing. Agility. Since agility affects things like attack order. So yeah, this agility, that's kind of its only purpose as far as I'm aware, is just what actions get to take priority over other actions, over other characters and other actions. So the higher the agility, the more frequently that character will be using their actions before your other characters and before the other, the enemies and things like that. So And then the luck stat says affects things like the chance of status ailments occurring. So, okay, that's interesting. I didn't actually know that that's what the luck stat did. Okay, so yeah, whether or not you get struck with the status ailment, like we saw in there, poison or, things like that, blindness, all that. So I guess the higher the luck, the, more chance your character has to evade being afflicted by those. It's good to know. Max HP is maximum hit points. Okay, so they do call it hit points, but you can call it health points, whatever. There's a variety of terms for these kinds of things. So this is maximum hit point represents the maximum amount of damage that the character can withstand. So, and then same with max MPs, maximum magic points represents the character's maximum power for using magic skills. So they're, the amount of resources that they have to use magic is magic points. So, and here we've got traits, just like we've seen in the other tabs earlier. And for these first couple, they all have the same traits. It's the attack element is physical, so they're all physical attacks. And then the EX parameter says hit rate plus 0%. So I'm not really even sure why they even need that. I would think if the rate was plus 0%, then why even include this? But anyway, it doesn't seem like they're increasing the hit rate any with these items, but they're just kind of, I think, showing you like, hey, you can, say hit rate plus 10%, and then you have a better chance of landing an attack with, successful attack with this weapon, and less chance to miss when you use it, or that sort of thing. But if it's plus 0%, I don't know why. That's like not having it there, because it's like hit rate is your basic hit rate. So whatever. It's probably just for the sake of example, to show, because I think that's what the point of most of these default included items and weapons and stuff is, and skills, is just to show you like, hey, here's how you make a basic, sword, and here's how you make a basic fire magic skill and things like that. So the one that is different, again, aside from the animations, the weapon types, the names, and the icons, is this last one here, the bow. Oh no, the bow's actually the same. My mistake. Okay, I was thinking of the armors. That's what I was thinking of. Because the ring is a little bit different. So yeah, even the bow, which is kind of weird. But you could do certain things, and that's one thing where maybe not in the elements, but you can make a different kind of setup. So like you could have your game be with these, swords and axes work the same, but maybe canes are a different type of weapon. So maybe they do like less damage or something. And then you could make weapons that do elemental damage besides physical damage and that sort of stuff. And then bow could maybe be something totally different, like I don't know, you could make it however you want, but maybe it could be like a magic bow and it increases your magic attack instead of your physical attack, or that sort of thing. But yeah, there's lots of options that you can play around with there. So let's go ahead and look at armors, because that's pretty much the same setup. I mean, same sort of screen and everything here. So it's these three that I was thinking of that didn't change that much, and then the ring changes the stat that it actually modifies. So just like with the armors here, we've got the name that you can change if you want, a description if you want to add a description, you've got icons, and you don't actually have to use icons in your game. You can double click on these and just click one of these blank spaces right here if you didn't want icons for certain items, and that can be kind of useful if you don't have the art assets. Like if by default they didn't have everything in the icons list that you wanted, like say, oh, I really think there should be a shoe or whatever. Like, I mean, there's some greaves and some boots and things like that, but maybe there's just something in here that and what you envision for it can't be replicated that well with what's available to you here. Then you can choose to just not have an icon for it. And then the other thing that might be a good idea is if you have a lot of stuff like that in your game, to just maybe not even use icons for your armors at all, or that sort of thing. But it's up to you what you want to do with that. So here again, just like with the weapons, we have the armor types, where you could choose none for it, or you could choose one of the existing ones. and then the equipment type. So now the difference here, I'll just hover over this really quick for you. It says armor type says the type of the armor. Setting equip armor in trait lists enables to equip with them. Wow, that's kind of a little bit, a little bit broken English sentence there, but basically the idea is what we looked at back in the classes in the actor section, where we decided there what each class and what each actor could equip, what type of armor. So they can equip magic armor and small shields or that sort of thing. Just like with the weapon type, same sort of idea, but the difference between this one here is equipment type. It says this is where the armor is equipped. So actors can equip different kinds of armor at the same time. So this is where you decide, hey, this is a shield and it goes into the shield armor slot, or hey, this is head armor and it goes into the head armor slot, that sort of thing. And that's in addition and separately from, decided separately from your armor type here. So you could say, maybe this shield is a small shield, but maybe you want to be able to equip it in the accessory slot, so it counts as a small shield, so classes that can have small shields can equip it, but you want, that to go as an accessory, and then maybe they could do, a separate shield for their big shield, or something for their main shield slot. So I don't know, that was maybe not the best example, but you get the idea that you can set these two independently from each other, and you don't have to say all shields have to fit into the shield slot, or that sort of thing. So the parameter differences here, again, the first three are pretty much the same in the parameter differences. You can see the differences between hat and cloth being their armor type changes to general armor, and then the equipment type where that equipment is located. Hat goes on the head armor, and the cloth goes on the body armor. So but they mostly increase your defense stat, and these parameters are all the same as the weapon. So you could have weapons that increase your defense if you want, and you could have armors that increase your attack power if that's what you want to do for your game. You can do it. The price here, and then again we have the EX parameter, and it's pointing the evasion rate, but it's also saying plus 0%. So it's just to kind of show you, like, hey, you can also make it so this hat increases your evasion rate if you want, so you'll have a better chance of dodging attacks from enemies and things, and you could set that to a higher number than 0% if you would like. And then this last one here, though, you can see it actually changes to, it doesn't offer defense or anything like that, but it increases the magic attack, and it's an accessory. So this is the kind of thing where it makes sense to have it on your characters that are casting a lot of spells, like we had that on our in the previous section. We had that for the mage spellcaster character, and we had it for the healer, the priest. So they'll be casting more spells, and so it makes sense to have them boost their magic attack to make their spells more effective. But other than that, it's pretty similar. It's pretty much the same stuff that we've seen, and you approach weapons and armors in the very similar ways in that sense. The difference is, of course, weapons have an animation when you use them. Armors do not, because it's just something that the player wears, and they're not going to be attacking with their with their cloth or whatever, or their ring, or but you can set things up like that if you want. You can make those into skills. That would be the way to do that. So if you wanted to have, like, say, a shield bash attack or something, then it would, then you would set that up as a skill, and then you could apply its own, animation and everything that way, just like as if it was a, attack skill or, whatever else.